Nima Tavallaey Roodsari is the Italian football podcast man, and they know a bit in Rome about the bread and circuses. Let's hear from Nima. Thanks for joining us, brother. Let's start with Wembley. The hysteria now visited upon the Wembley authorities, the FA in England, because so far at least they've not been prepared to light up Wembley in the colours of Israel, has to be seen, felt, to be believed. They may well capitulate, who knows, before the kickoff. How did we get to this, where football, sport, was supposed to be something you kept politics out of, to football being used as a political weapon?
Well, first of all, good evening, George. It's good to be with you.
Thank you.
What we've seen in the last week is truly a shocking and dishonest push and barrage of guff and lies in the last week by the mainstream media, mainly the English-speaking one in football, which is the subject matter which I work with and cover. As we all know that now football is a front in this propaganda war. Now, let me give you a couple of examples of the kind of nonsense that we've all been exposed to. Jacob Steinberg from The Guardian tweeting for days on end about how Jews don't matter in the football world. Martin Ziegler and Tom Roddy after England played Australia on the back page front story of The Times, saying how about the Wembley Arch being in the dark. Sam Wallace, same newspaper, doing his utmost in his editorial to tie in the Holocaust and anti-Semitism so many times per 100 words. I think he might have set a new world record. Matt Law, The Telegraph, again, doing the story about a letter sent in by the Israeli Professional League's chairman, but nothing from anyone Palestinian. And of course, Adam Crafton of The Athletic, who's been pushing the 40 decapitated babies lie on Twitter, even after it was debunked and the CNN reporter in question apologized for her words, still hasn't deleted his tweet and hasn't tweeted a retraction or an apology for spreading falsehoods, even after acknowledging that he was aware that this was a falsehood. Now, not one of these gentlemen or any of their colleagues did a piece that was objective or has tweeted anything factual or objective, let alone try to balance it by telling the Palestinian side or by speaking to someone from the Palestinian authorities in a separate story or even in the same story. Not even now. They don't have the excuse anymore. Since it's been 5, 6, 7 days now that Gaza is under siege, and not even after the fascist statements by the Israeli government equating all Palestinians with animals and implying there are no innocent people in Gaza. And remember, Gaza is the home of where 2 million people, where 55% are under 18. None of this is by chance. These supine gentlemen and the corporate mainstream media organizations they work for, they're not in the news business, George, as you're full well aware. They're in the propaganda business. They aren't journalists. They are unofficial PR experts for whatever NATO cause du jour may be. And I say NATO because the reaction to all of this from NATO countries and governments has been one and the same as these gentlemen and their media organizations. There's been no acknowledgement of the genocide being conducted right now as we speak, no call even for a ceasefire, but sole condemnation of the Palestinians, equating them all with Hamas, branding them all as terrorists and vicious, so as to feed this Islamophobic trope about all Muslims essentially being ticking time bombs that can go off at any minute. No context, never. It is, and I use this term seriously, nothing more than the vilest, rawest form of intellectual prostitution, as my late grandfather, rest his soul, would say. Now, and it's been rather successful too. I mean, let's remember what happened in football in recent years. Back in 2021, when Leicester players Hamza Choudhury and Wesley Fofana waved a Palestinian flag after having won the FA Cup final, there were calls to punish them. And banned them. Same things, same year when Manchester City player Riyad Mahrez celebrated winning the Premier League, by waving the Palestinian flag. In the FIFA World Cup in Qatar, barely a year ago, an organization named UK Lawyers for Israel wrote to the FIFA Disciplinary Committee demanding that Morocco be punished for celebrating while waving the Palestinian flag. And we've got countless examples of this. But when Zinchenko of Arsenal waves the Israeli flag, they all applaud. And the reason for these things, all of these things that I've mentioned, the ridiculous attempts to tie the Palestinian cause with anti-Semitism, the talk of criminalizing waving the Palestinian flag, the banning of demonstrations supporting Palestine, etc., are all the next step of a process which has been ongoing for the last few years, where essentially they are canceling the Palestinians' existence on earth by equating their existence with anti-Semitism. If anyone wants to rage against cancel culture, try on that for size. They are canceling an entire people off the face of the earth, militarily and culturally. And the latter part is something that you would know Keir Starmer's Labour has perfected, where there are reports suggesting that Jewish members of Labour are 13 times more likely to be thrown out of the Labour Party for claims of anti-Semitism due to them simply being anti-Zionist, where they equate the two. And any person who successfully finished any sort of education at any level would understand how ludicrous this is, as there is a difference between the religion, Judaism, the political ideology, Zionism, and the apartheid state of Israel.
Well, wow is all I can say to that. I've seldom heard more eloquence and power in a short statement. Let me just ask a couple of quick questions. My team, Celtic, were fined. The club was fined for some of its supporters waving a Palestinian flag in the crowd, over which the club had no say whatsoever. It was the crowd proud of them, but it was the spectators who did it. And we were fined £60,000, if I recall correctly. Now, football grounds are being asked to light themselves up in the colours of one party to a conflict, an ancient one, at that, as you've just perfectly described. Who took the decisions to do that? Who turned? I mean, at Hampden Park, they even made the corner flags in the colours of the Ukrainian flag. The livery of the furniture around football stadiums was turned into Ukrainian colours. And now the demand is to do it for Israel. Who takes these decisions?
Well, I'd suggest they take it, the same people with the same decision-making power that they have usurped and taken upon themselves, with which they brand it as the rules-based order. Whose rules? Whose order? They do what they want, whenever they want, however they want. They got rid of Russia when Russia invaded Ukraine, but when Israel is conducting a genocide in the concentration camp that is Gaza, and I use that term based on the way that it's been defined by Professor Norman Finkelstein, right? That's what Gaza is. We are watching the live murder and genocide of a people, and we're supposed to be arguing over the color of the arch of Wembley or whether or not a flag can be waved at a demonstration. This is beyond bizarre.
Yeah. David Cameron, by the way, when he was Prime Minister, and I was there in the House of Commons chamber, when he said it, described Gaza as the largest open-air prison in the world. Now, the players, the ones that one expected to speak out for the Palestinian people, have been oddly silent. Al-Neni of Arsenal, albeit on the sidelines now at Arsenal, is the only player I have seen in the Premier League or attached to the English Premier setup to make any kind of supportive noise for the Palestinians. Even those players that are in Saudi Arabia, like Sadio Mane, for example, that I would have expected to hear from, and definitely not Mohamed Salah yet, who wants out of Liverpool anyway. I'm not sure what he has to lose. They've all been silent. Why would that be?
Well, I mean, just before we came on, Karim Benzema, the former French international and Real Madrid legend, Ballon d'Or winner, came out on Twitter in French in support, expressing his support and worry about the Palestinian people. Look, it's exactly what we've been discussing in this conversation that we've been having. This is what they do. People are so scared of the fallback on social media. They're afraid to lose, sponsorship contracts. They're afraid of getting cancelled. But I'm sorry, but at some point you have to find your spine. You have to you have to stand by the courage of your convictions and stand for what you believe in and what you think is right. Again, we are watching the live genocide of a people right now. For how many days without water, without fuel, without any energy to pump up those the energy rate to keep the hospitals going? I mean, I saw a report of 50,000 pregnant women in Gaza don't have access to clean water or healthcare. At what point will people stand up and speak up and say this is unacceptable? How many more children have to die?
At what point? How many more children have to die? The two big questions. Nima, thanks very much for joining us.